Good morning to all the viewers and participants of the Convergence 2021 on the second day. We have brought in a panel of very eloquent speakers and market practitioners today in the panel called Digital Finance, the way forward beyond mobile wallet and integration with mainstream banking. Let me have the privilege to introduce today's participants. I will start with Mr. Kamal Quadir, who is the CEO of bKash Limited. Kamal was a founder, is a founder, not was, is a founder, and started off with the company at a very nascent stage. Probably he moved into an executive role within a couple of months of company's formation, 2011. Since then, Kamal has led and grown the company to be, if I am allowed to say, one of the fastest growing MFS in Bangladesh and probably globally, to a position where bKash is today. Kamal has a lot of entrepreneurial activity before he started off with bKash, and which gave him his entrepreneurial start of his career to get bKash going. They had a dream of getting the unbanked into the banking system, for where bKash was born. I'd like to welcome Kamal today. The next person I'd like to introduce is Mr. Rahel Ahmed. Rahel had been in the banking arena for a long period of time in his life, joined as management trainee in the erstwhile ANZ Grindlays Bank, merged into Standard Chartered, worked for Standard Chartered in Bangladesh and in UAE markets, moved to banking in the UAE markets, came back and joined Prime Bank Limited as the Deputy Managing Director. After probably 3 years or so, he took over as the Managing Director and CEO of Prime Bank Limited. Did a wonderful job for 3 years with Prime Bank, and then moved to another fast-growing MFS called Nogod. And I don't want to say why and what, because he had had a lot of press of his reasons to move in there. Welcome, Rahel. I'm also very delighted and privileged to introduce Mr. Sydul H Khondker, who is currently the CEO of the brand we call UPAY, which is UCB Fintech Company Limited. And Mr. Khondker brings with him a varied experience in our table today. He used to be in his last role as a project manager or project director of UCB, which is what we see in 2021, the birth of UPAY. And prior to that, he was the CEO of Nogod. He has a varied background in telecom, in manufacturing, and in advertising. So he brings with us a lot of market perspective today. I would also like to welcome Soumya Basu, who is the country manager for Bangladesh, Nepal, and Bhutan for Visa. And I'm very happy to see Visa's on the ground now. I have been dealing with Visa since 2001 in my role as Managing Director of Eastern Bank Limited, when we first decided to do a credit card in Eastern Bank. And Eastern Bank launched first Visa debit card in Bangladesh, if I remember correctly, in 2003-04, and their credit card in 2006. So gentlemen, thank you very much, and a very warm welcome to today's panel. My name is Mahmood Sattar, and I have been given the task to moderate today's panel. So without much ado, I would like to get into the panel discussion. And we'll start off with MFS Vision Future State. Since Kamal has been running bKash for nearly 11 years now, let me put the first question to him. Is how do you see the future of MFS shaping up in Bangladesh? You have seen the last 11 years. And how do you see it moving into the next 5 years, Kamal?
Thank you, Mahmood. And Mahmood, thanks for the very generous introduction. And somebody like you with so many years of banking experience, you moderating this session shows the gravity of the subject, and appreciate the time you have given, and thanks for inviting me. So, if you look at the last 10 years, it is initial goal was very fundamentally that breaking the ceiling for the unbanked people. So it was in a very simple way. The technology was there, namely the mobile network and the mobile handset availability by individual owning handset. So by capitalizing this thing, if the regulator can maintain the customer's fund security as well as having the visibility of the fund flow, then we can create an inclusive financial system. That was the fundamental genesis of MFS's birth, as you know, and you're one of those persons who have worked behind this thing shaping up at that time during your tenure as an ABB chief. So certainly we have come a long way, and I don't want to, there are practitioners here, so we don't want to repeat what we have achieved. But going forward, if you ask me, I would say the use of technology, it's going to be at a different level, because fundamentally there is a cap how many customers you can possibly have given the demography of our country. So you see when Bangladesh Financial Intelligence Unit came up with the guidelines for how self-registration would be done, that was deployed, and subsequently that had a tremendous impact on how during the COVID people adopted MFS without even visiting an agent point or any shop. So this thing will continue, but on top of that, recommendation engine. So basically what customers are seeing, what customers are doing, and based on that, what will be customers should be doing in future. So artificial intelligence will come in, and it will make a recommendation that you need to do this or you can do that. This will fit better with your profile. Auto sanction would be coming, and it's not for you, but for common audience, I would say for example, somebody is doing a transaction in Dhaka, and you see same number transaction is happening within half an hour from Thakurgaon. Okay, so artificial intelligence will have the layers of information that in an environment like Bangladesh, nobody can travel within half an hour to Thakurgaon or within a short period of time, or say within 5 minutes. And artificial intelligence will be applied, and automatically sanction screening will be applied. We have already seen face recognition technology, obviously. Then into the churn reduction, in terms of win-back prediction, all these areas, technology will play a very important role. And if you look at the product-wise, we are already seeing in market loan products are available when the loans are in the books of the bank. Insurance products are also available, the people can buy insurance, and you can see how utility bill payments have moved to MFS. So all these areas of product will be diversified. I see a lot of focus in payment, and those payment experience also will be better going forward. You don't have, currently what happens, you go to a shop and people say, I want to make a payment through bKash or Nagad or Rocket, and then the first thing you hear the shopkeeper saying that amader bKasher phone ta kothay. Okay, and that's not the way you can give a good experience to a customer. Okay, so those things will be changing going forward. So I would see a lot of investment in the space of technology, and one broad thing definitely will happen, that overall Bangladesh banks complete the whole thing operating under their jurisdiction, A to Z. I think that's a very important thing, including having a complete a consistent pattern of in terms of customer registration and other areas where BFI have set up rules. How do we follow those rules should be all consistent for everybody. I think that's what I see. A lot of regulatory compliance things will come in, but I feel the way technology will be applied, customer would not even know that behind the scene what's really going on. But at the end of the day, the customer's footprint, behavioral footprints will be all monitored through a digital platform.
Thank you, Kamal. So what you're basically saying is that what we are seeing, which came in a handicap of technology or handsets at that time, which was just a money transfer from a P2P, we are actually going to move into payment solutions. And a fintech could be more a tech fin company than a fintech company, because there's so much of technology that's going to go behind those payment platforms. There's going to be a more a technology company that sort of facilitate payments or finance, that we could say.
If I may just borrow additional 40 seconds or so. Already a lot of payments are taking place. I mean, if you count the airtime transaction, they might be small transaction, only 35 taka or 25 taka on average, but people are getting habituated that electronically they can make payments. So we often don't count airtime, but 50% of all the transactions that you see, this very impressive number the central bank publishes every month, half of them is actually small payment. And if you combine all of them, close to 60% transactions are already happening. Those are payments, but these are all for very, very small ticket size. And people are not venturing into large transaction for payment, but I think that's going to happen.
Well, the whole idea as MFS came in was for smaller tickets, which are going to move upward in the parameter of higher scale. Taking from Kamal's discussion, Rahel, you've spent most of your life in the financial world as a lender, as a banker. And if I had read a few of your sayings in the press, that your reason of leaving Prime Bank was to venture out into this payment world. It's a new world. But how do you see this space evolving? I mean, we see wonders that Nogod keeps on doing, and the communication that they do of the wonders. And going to the market, how do you see this space evolving compared to banking? Now, banking is a very large word, Rahel. I am not saying that you're going to open letters of credit out of your handset. I'm not saying you're going to do cross-border transaction out of your handset. But payment has been an integral part since banking started. People kept money in a bank and transacted P2P, P2B, B2B, B2C. How do you see this space coming behind with close to 25 years of that mindset into a different area? How do you see this space taking over the payment side, the payment chunk of banking in the years to come ahead?
Thank you, Sattar. Thanks again for the introduction, and greetings from my side to all the fellow panelists. Just taking cue from what Kamal Bhai said, they are definitely the pioneer in the market for last 11, 12 years now. They could see the future, and they started off with this intra-country remittance, as we can say, the P2P business, which was sending money from one point of Bangladesh to another point. So it all started with, now to answer your question, it all started, the MFS business, in my understanding, it all started with the convenience which the traditional banks could not create, even despite being in play for a number of years. So as the days progress, as the time has passed by, and especially over the last few years, and especially the last 18 months, a little more than that, with this COVID changing our lives in many ways, this thing has very strongly been established that the ease and convenience is going to be the name of the game for future. For the last 4 or 5 years, as you have been around also in the banking sector, and I have been there, as we know, that most of the banks had been planning for digital transformation. Now, when the banks were talking about digital transformation, if I take out the wholesale banking space, and if I only concentrate on the retail and MSME part of it, and especially the retail part of it, which is more comparable to the services being provided by MFS to begin with, handling with the payment side, which was the crux of your question. the digital transformation was more of a changing the process of the bank, or the way, the onboarding of the client, or just giving them a little bit of an UX in terms of internet banking offering. Those were the front end kind of gimmicks the banks were offering, or mostly been investing on. But when it comes to the absolute ease and convenience part of it, with a click of a button, from remotest corner of one corner of the country to another corner, making payments, sending money, and making some value addition. That is where the MFS has kind of expanded their business in. If we talk about bKash or even Nogod or the other players who have been there and who are also coming in, what we have seen gradually, the transaction volumes we have seen growing. Primarily, we have seen cash in, cash out, and P2P constituting the majority of the transaction that takes place in the MFS space. But over last, I would say 12 months, we have been seeing significant growth in terms of the merchant payments and other payment areas as well. And that is a very good area. I mean, that is a very good thing. That is the future where we all are trying to push. AI and all other, the technological innovations and stuff that Kamal bhai mentioned about, that is definitely going to come in. In my eyes, the way I see, in the retail space, from a banking perspective, the AI and machine learning and all these other trends, through collaboration, none of these MFSs would be doing on a standalone basis, but we'll have to collaborate with people like Visa or people like other merchants, aggregators, payment service providers, banks to a certain extent, other fintechs, and then create more and more of platforms to create those personalized, eased, convenient most solution for the retail population or the consumer population of the country. So that is where we are heading. And if you ask me point blank that as a banker in the past, how do I see MFS business taking over? Yes, we see very strong proposition from our side through these collaborations, where we will be taking out a significant part of the retail banking space. Not only the payment side with the expansion of product variations and stuff, and I'm sure the central bank, as the time passes by, will be allowing more and more services to these MFS players, where, as Kamal bhai mentioned, bKash has already started giving the nano loans on a pilot basis. That is one area, and that is again focusing mostly on the micro lending part, and that can again be scaled up going forward through collaboration, through merchants and aggregators and others. So more and more of these will be coming in. The banks will feel more and more challenged in these retail, not only the payment side, but also the lending area. And on the deposit side also, or the liability wealth management side also, with some value propositions, this can be scaled up.
Rahel, an addendum to this question, to your answer.
Sure.
You will continue to remain, as we see, the payment modality, the payment gateway. And you will have options like we see in our neighboring country, India, insurance, their apps, their collators. Do you see yourself, or the types of likes of Nogod, UPAY, Rocket, bKash, to be the collator of choice for the consumer? Because probably central bank will hesitate to give you a book to give loans on. So you'd be basically collating on. Good, that's a good way forward. Thank you, Rahel.
Thank you.
My next guest, Mr. Sydul Khondker. Sydul, you bring with you a lot of experience of a lot of different areas. You've seen supply chains, you've seen manufacturing, you've seen fintech, MNOs, telcos, even advertising to that reason, all technologically related. So the company which you have started, and started in the sense it was there. I mean, UCash was a part of UCB Bank, like Rocket is a part of Touch Bangla. But the focus, it was a division within a bank. The focus has now been given to a company called UCB Fintech Solutions Limited. So if we say it's an extended arm of a conventional banking, like what Rahel mentioned, that banks which will realize early that not only the payment side, a part of the retail and the MSME will move away to the payment gateway providers. If we say that, do you think the MFS is going to be the next generation of banking? Or will we still be reliant on banks, which I just mentioned to Rahel, that probably you will never get to write loans on yourself? But to a consumer, are you going to be the front face? You means all the MFS and the payment solution providers. Are you going to be the front face in the next 5 years or 10 years, where banks are going to be generically behind? Like you see the insurance app in India, where you actually buy an insurance policy and the back end is the insurance company. Do you see MFS moving to that forefront and replacing banking, at least the retail side of it?
Thank you, Sattar. It's a very nice question that you asked. And first of all, I would like to thank the entire organizers for arranging this webinar, first of all. It's the right time for this kind of discussion, actually. Before going into before going to your question, I would like to introduce my new brand, UPAY, to the audience. You know very well that UPAY is a very new entity, very new entity for the CMFS industry. We just launched 2 months back, and it's a subsidiary of United Commercial Bank. The bank, UCB, is a well-known, well-reputed, and one of the oldest bank in this industry. And the UCB has the two different MFS product kind of things. One was UCash, you have named these things, and another one was the UPAY. So now it's a new name that is called UPAY, with a modern technology, with the different solutions, updated solutions. We are now coming into the market. Now coming back to your questions, you see the banking system, if we talk about the banking solutions, going back to the historical background of the industrial revolutions. In 19th century, after the French Revolution, French industrial revolutions, the banking sector started giving their best effort to the civilization of the entire economic modernizations. And at that point, banking system was a very linear kind of solutions. People were earning money, putting the deposit to their banks, and bank is collecting those money and giving to loan to the different business entities, and business entities are doing business. People are earning from the salary. Again, they are depositing in the bank. It's a common circle. And it was a very normal kind of banking solutions, but in course of time, and if you see the total progress of the civilizations, now the classical economy has been emerged like anything else, new requirements coming in, new demands are coming in, and banks are trying to incorporate all the new demands from the customer sides. And usually the banks are now getting more digital, more modern. We can very well recall that the days when the big balam khatas were there in the bank and keeping the lasers every day manually. And afterwards, the software came in, the automation started working more fast, and very easy solution is coming in. And now the era of internet, iBanking, e-banking, these all are to support the entire social sectors. So now coming into the MFS industry, that is also, it's a step of the total ecosystem, the total financial ecosystem. Here, you can very well see that bank is somehow stagnant to some areas. Like because of their business models, they should maintain their branches. Through the branch, they are providing service to the customer bases. So it has some capex and opex altogether. So considering their business model, they cannot reach to the marginal level of people. And that is the main problem. Through the solution, they are making their product convenient, easy, and more secure to a specific class of people, not the mass people. Why? They are trying through the branches, they are trying again through their agent banking to reach the marginal level of people. But unfortunately, it's very difficult for them to reach those marginal people who are in a poor segment. Here, MFS comes in. MFS is giving the solution to the doorstep to those poor people. Those poor people actually don't want to come to the branches. Those people don't even they feel scary to talk to the branches, the branch managers. They're very uncomfortable with the technology, with the protocols, with the bank procedures. So here the MFS is giving the opportunity to get this financial service next to his doorstep through the agents. So agent banking and the branch banking is a bit expensive modality of reaching the people, whereas the MFS is more cheaper and convenient to address this service to those people. So in that sense, we can say that bank is basically asking the people to come and get the service, and MFS basically going to the people for the service as per their convenience. That's one of the basic difference. This is how the MFS is emerging. So in that case, we can say that actually it's not expansion, it's basically complementing the entire banking solution through the MFS. So we are complementing the banking solutions to the marginal level of people with this technology. And here, the two important thing is basically the convenience and the availability. So if you talk about the availability, yes, what I have mentioned, that he is getting this service next to his door level through the agents. And if you talk about the convenience, I also say that the poor people are not very convenient to go to the branches. They are not very convenient to talk to the bank people. Rather, they are very convenient to talk to his neighborhood, to the shopkeepers who are basically the same class. So this is how the MFS is taking place and getting popular day by day. And people have started depending on or relying on this MFS journey. And security is one concern. It was a serious concern, and we have addressed these things from the day one in our technology. You have seen that we have ensured the device authentication, so that we are saying that if you lose the PIN and someone hacked your PIN, your money will be just assured. This is how we're trying to ensure the convenience and the security and trying to build the trust. So we have a long way to go. Entire as the society, as the civilization is a continuous growing process. So the banking concept will also emerge gradually. So in that case, we can say that banking is core of the financial ecosystem, but the form of bank is ever changing. So we are the part of the change. In that way, I want to conclude this question.
Thank you very much, Sydul. I will now move to my next guest, Mr. Soumya Basu, who is representing Visa today here. And as a leading payment network globally, Soumya, because of my days, we saw Visa and Master as a switch for processing our transactions between bank, merchant, and the customer. So it is a P to C to B that we did, and we were wholly dependent on them. As a payment network globally, how do you see the growth of MFS globally, or more the payment solution provider, the MFS and PSP together? How do you see this taking over in Asia or the globe? How do you see it?
Thanks, Sattar. Firstly, thank you very much for having me. Pleasure being here with all of you, and I've had the good fortune of working with most of the fellow panelists, so makes it a very comfortable space as well. Okay, I think to your question on how this whole space has evolved, look, I'll just take a step back perhaps and give you the Visa perspective on how we look at this space. So we are almost a 60-plus-year-old organization globally. And I think we were one of the first fintech companies, even before fintech became a buzzword. Payments technology is something that we do day in and day out. And delivering that with all the partner institutions across more than 200 countries is what we take pride in. We've definitely seen a lot changes globally as well as in certain pockets around the world. What, as you rightly mentioned, what was earlier, driven through the traditional banks and financial institutions has gradually moved to more of tech players who have kind of led the more recent surge in the adoption of digital payments. And overall, I think as an organization, we have also changed. We have also kind of moved with the times to now say that we are more into the business of money movement rather than payments or cards or any particular form factor. And in that whole money movement process, there are multiple partners that we work with across the globe. Obviously, the traditional banks. Now we have the fintechs. We also have a lot of these technology players who are increasingly getting into the financial services space. The likes of Google, Amazon, Facebook, you name it. And locally, if you look at more of Asia Pacific, I think it has been the hotbed of fintech innovation, if I can use that term. Right from India, we've seen the likes of Paytm and PhonePe and Google Pay, UPI, all becoming like huge in their own right, as well as several players across the region. bKash has been a pioneer in Bangladesh, Wave Money in Myanmar, Grab, Gojek in Southeast Asia, you name it. I mean, and there are endless examples. What they have typically done is, I feel they've brought a transformational change in the way people interact with money. And that has been a big eye-opener for the traditional players as well. And the reason I say this is because it's more to do with the user experience, as one of my fellow panelists mentioned a little while ago, than the core banking and payments processes of switching, routing, and processing, settlement, and all of that stuff. So, as a network, I mean, what we believe very strongly is we are a network of networks. That's a strategy which has evolved over the past few years. So we are not saying that, okay, we'll work with banks, we'll work with fintechs, we'll work with anybody. We'll work with tech players or anybody who wants to use our rails to move money from point A to point B. And if I can expand that a little bit, so let's say in the context of, if you think about a highway or a motorway, so we'll build the highway, we'll build excellent infrastructure for all participants to come and ride and drive and go from point A to point B. That's how this whole network of networks gains importance, this concept, and also helps in the larger democratization of payments, including everyone, including the marginalized, including the people who have been excluded thus far. The other aspect which we see increasingly, gaining prominence is the regulations and the policy level sort of changes that are coming in place. With every passing year, we see that, okay, earlier it was, first there was a policy or a framework, and then there would be participants adopting that policy to deliver services to the consumers. Today, we have really, really innovative companies who are working with the regulators within the sandbox, within the regulatory sandbox environment, helping co-create solutions based on which policies are coming up also. Because nobody knew this. Nobody knew these things could be possible. So as we look at it, going forward, I think regulators are a key component, I think, of this overall piece. And if this were to really become mainstream, especially in the Asia Pacific region, which is very diverse, each and every market, I think regulators and governments will play a significant role in giving a boost to the role that networks, fintechs, banks, and partners will play. And the other aspect that I just want to briefly touch upon is how it's more about partnerships than somebody doing the entire thing A to Z. And the reason why I say this is because if you look at it, I mean, fintechs are not really interested or not really, think that is a core competence to hold balances and do the settlement and so on and so forth. They are more interested and they're more competent to deliver excellent customer experience. On the back end, we'll have the banks doing the more mundane stuff, if I may say so, of dealing with the settlement, the disputes, and so on and so forth. And between these two layers, we'll obviously have various partners, technology providers, enablers, processors, networks, who would make this end-to-end journey more seamless and more convenient for the ecosystem to thrive.
Thank you, Soumya, because you also nearly answered the second part of my question that I was about to ask, which basically means MFS, the technology has forced people like Visa, Masters, and others to go one step back and create the more highways instead of being the provider of the transaction. So do companies like yours and MasterCard feel challenged by this MFS companies, PSP companies? You've nearly answered the question, but just a one-liner.
Look, I think a short summary or a one-sentence answer would be that for everybody who is there in this ecosystem, in this space, I think there's only one competition, which is cash. We are far, far away from the moment to say that, okay, I compete with another network, or I compete with MFS, or I compete with a bank. With less than 5% digitization in the space, I think our first and biggest competition is cash. So the other way to look at it is, definitely we don't see MFS or fintechs or these PSPs as competition. We rather see them as partnership opportunities. And in fact, we have demonstrated that in Bangladesh with the likes of bKash, Nagod, and UPAY.
Thank you, Soumya. Moving on to the second phase or the next steps, this is saying that every financial company will be a fintech company. We are moving towards a saying which is saying fintech today is a bank tomorrow. It's more and more going into the banking space, which smarter banks are realizing, and like exactly Visa and Masters, that they have to change their path. They will be at the back end. So Kamal, do you see these MFS and PSPs becoming the next generation of banks and growing much beyond payments, which you have answered a bit, which you have said in your opening statement? So do you see them as a next step of moving beyond payments?
Well, Mahmood, and many of these things I have learned by being around people like you. So if I look at, I'm not a banker, okay, and I see banking with great sense of respect, and it's a, I see fundamentally bank is a resource base, and it takes deposit and it gives loan, and it is a resource base to an entrepreneur. It's a resource base for an existing business. So that role banks will continue to play for a, it's design. Bank's purpose is to be a resource base, okay, and resource need will be there forever, and we don't see any reason why this need will be changing. Now, if you are saying how will companies like us will convert into that, it's something to see. But if I see where we are going, I think it's much easier for me to visualize than turning into something that we are not. Okay, that is, if you look at what are we doing right now, we are very heavily complementing the banking industry. Okay, the person who was not inside the banking mechanism, and as I said earlier, that banks are designed to be a resource base. So I have said it in the past, and I'm going to repeat this thing. And excuse my repetition here. Banks are designed for handling big fish. Okay, and we are so far designed for handling anchovies. Okay, so we collect all the anchovies, we collectively put that protein base to the banks, and banks then handle that, and they know where to give that resource to bring the economy forward. Okay, so in that mechanism, the reason I say that we are playing a tremendously complementing role, the nets we create, okay, the nets we deploy or we use, banks usually have, in the past, banks haven't pursued those nets. Okay, so by coexistence, what we are doing, we are bringing all this people with financially constrained arrangement, or people with limited resource. We are also bringing them into the financial platform, and in a very fundamental way. And it's gratifying this way that even the rickshaw puller today is actually contributing in creating the capital base for the banks. Okay, and banks are using that resource for other big activities. So we are working very closely. Now, if you look at the regulator, the way they have designed the current coexisting system, actually can take us quite far. Okay, for example, banks, MFI, they can play their resource decision. Okay, and we work as a channel. Okay, to reach the customer. Say 3 in the morning, a customer needs to reach a resource base, namely a bank, with that has the capital. The customer needs to take their injured child or sick parents to a hospital. The channel like Bikash can get access to the bank, bring the resource, give it to the customer 3 in the morning, and the customer can use that resource for purposes they need for. So that way, I see we would be playing further complementing roles. And when we do that, yes, after a while, if for further efficiency, if central banks or regulatory bodies think that the purpose of bank, which mitigates the risk in certain way that MFS doesn't, okay, that role now, MFS is mature enough that they should be playing those roles. Okay, then I see an evolution could be quite useful, and that brings further efficiency. It may bring cost of lending might be a bit cheaper, and we can definitely complement that role as well. So I wouldn't say it's a eminent essential arrangement, but I would say the regulators have, the way they have designed it, already the best, already the solutions that banks provide, MFS provide, that could be that could coexist and bring the best of both sides for the customer. And going forward, as things become more mature, people get more used to it, the sense of payment, people understands that how the digital platform works very clearly, then of course some kind of evolution can make our position further evolve.
Thank you, Kamal. Today, I'm very convinced that back in 2010, when I had the first conversation with you regarding telco-led, bank-led MFS model,
yes,
I'm feeling happy and elated that I believed in you without really understanding, and I went and argued our case. And finally, we became a bank-led model. Because the fear was, if you look at the Philippine model, where it was telco-led, they would basically want to go and be a bank by themselves. So I'm happy to know that actually the switch providers, the Visa, MasterCards of this world, the banks, and the MFS has all got a space to grow within itself. I would like to move into an important or a burning issue now among the consumers. which has happened in the MNO operation, in the telco operation. And we talk about integration. I have a bKash account. I cannot transact with a client who has a Nogod or a UPAY or a Dutch Bangla Rocket. So on a customer perspective, it is very difficult for me to have 4 different accounts. You know, if my Grameen phone could not talk to Robi, then for all that Robi clientele base, I needed to have a Robi SIM also to talk to. So I would get to Rahel and ask you this question, that what are you people as players in the MFS working about in the near future for interoperability among MFS players, where customer can transfer money from his mobile wallet of a company to another company?
Thank you, Sattar. I mean, as you may know already, that the ICT Ministry, in collaboration with Central Bank, has taken up the responsibility, and they're running a project for quite some time now for this interoperability framework to work out. We, from our side, from our Nogod's perspective, we have already mentioned it a few times in the past as well, that we welcome this proposition. This has to happen. I mean, from consumer point of view, as you rightly say, that this has been a handicap for quite some time, and as the time has, evolved, and in today's world, this autonomy has to be given to the consumer, whichever rail he or she wants to use, and at any point of time. There are some relevant factors, I'm sure, that would take a long time to understand or discuss, that needs to be ironed out in terms of, for all the MFSs as well as FIs to take part into this interoperability framework, where it has to be a level playing ground. There should be some things that are aspects that need to be ironed out. But from the technological point of view, or from the spirit of it, we definitely welcome it, and we are very much willing to be a part of this proposition. As we understand that by end of the year, that's the target. Recently been mentioned by Central Bank that they would want this to kick off towards the end of 2021. So that definitely will be giving more of autonomy or flexibility or fungibility to the customer or to the end consumer to decide how and where 24/7 he or she is going to put his resources and how he or she is going to apply that. At the same time, if I may just borrow less than a minute and make one comment with regards to your earlier question that you asked to Kamal Bhai. I just wanted to share my thought on that. Since I had been, under your mentorship for quite a long time, had been a banker for more than 2.5 decades. You see, the way things have progressed now, and MFS, and even if we compare ourselves with our neighboring countries and everything, this is kind of a call of a time, and time is changing pretty fast now. I mean, what used to happen in the world, in Bangladesh, maybe we used to follow it after 10, 12 years in the past, but now we follow pretty fast, and we kind of do it much faster than before. As we have seen in neighboring countries, the payments bank to evolve. I mean, that's the first step that we have seen happening. And the next step, what we are seeing, the wave that has kicked into Asia is digital bank, or the DigiBank thing. And as we speak, bKash or Nogod, for that matter, UPAY in due time, obviously, we would be offering services, what a retail bank offers, almost 70 or 80% of it. So in terms of, many of the services or propositions. So why not, let one of these players collaborate with each other or with somebody else, and then come up with a model and, offer a DigiBank service? Because we have been a banker, and as you and I, we both know that for a bank today, to get rid of its legacy in terms of system, process, platform, and offer that DigiBank proposition afresh is pretty difficult task. Then one of these companies or new DigiBank to come and evolve much faster. I mean, that, the agent banking has been around for quite some time, and look at the client acquisition numbers of bKash and Nogod in last 10, 11 years, as compared to the banks acquiring the customers, the number of customers. And as Kamal bhai very rightly mentioned also, that banks are primarily interested with big fishes, and we have been actually giving the true essence of financial inclusion as being desired by everyone. So I think this is now the call of the time where, be it MFS or BFS, whichever we want to call ourselves, to get into this DigiBank space and be a bank or a neobank kind of a proposition in due time. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahel. I thought you'd be going on those spaces. Scares the current bankers, so I did not ask you that question. I would go back to Sydul and say that you've had experience in Nogod. You worked as a project director of a bank. You probably are sitting in somewhere around the UCB headquarters. You have a feeling of a bank on breathing down your neck and saying, "Don't eat up my business." What kind of infrastructure support do you think is required for this integration of interoperability, which is going to reduce the cost for both you as a provider and me as the customer? You can refer on to what we have seen in our neighboring country in India with UPIs, like Unified Payment Interface, and National Payment Corporation of India managing that. Because the interoperability is the next thing that's crying. You can't all stand alone and start being large players. You will have to talk to each other. So, being a fintech company, I'm asking you, Sydul, what sort of infrastructure support are you expecting from the regulators or government to give you to quickly get into that interoperability situation?
I am basically working closely with my bank, the UCB, and I'm very much happy to let you know that we are working under the same umbrella in the same building, but the structure and the organogram is very different. Even the DNA of the organization is also very different. And the best part is, I'm seeing the board of the bank and the total management of the bank, how positively they are supporting us in every aspect. And they are really, I didn't even expect when I was a project director, it was a serious concern for me that how much support I will get from the bank management, because bank, we were furious that whether they can understand the philosophy of this fintech or not. But I'm very happy to let you know that our UCB management has really very cooperative to these particular ventures, and they are supporting whatever we are asking for, just for the success of this particular MFS ventures. And coming back to these things, MFS is, from my point of view, MFS is not very matured as of today. Though it's 10 years already done, 10 years gone, a lot of players are there, but still I would rather say long way to go to have the real maturity of this particular industry. So you can name only 4, 5, 6 companies as of today, like bKash and Rocket, Nogod, UPAY, and few others as well. But a lot of things we need to learn as well. A lot of concerns are also in the industry, and there are a lot of battles are going on, like price battles are going on also. So things has to be settled up to a certain limit. This I believe, and definitely interoperability is very essential, and it will help each others. But before that, that level of maturity of this industry is equally important, and the regulatory body also has to work very closely. They have suggested us about these things, and the platform has to be developed accordingly, the product kind of things, and the gateway. There are so many dependencies. We are welcoming these things. Before that, definitely regulatory involvement and mass people's understanding knowledge also very important. One thing I want to again re-emphasize: yes, we are developing our technology, we are making our new innovative products, everything. But what about the ecosystem or the literacy of our people? We have to understand that the Count also said, and Rahel also said, that we are working with the mass people, those who are not that much tech savvy. So whatever technological advantage we are talking about, still there are a lot of untapped areas where the people are yet to know about this kind of mobile wallet usage and their features and so many things. So we need to focus on the orientation of this new wallet concept. A lot of people still don't know much about the comfortness, about the easiness, about the convenience of using this digital wallet. And we are going to those people, that the rickshawalas, the shopkeepers. Really, how much percentage of these people know about this kind of wallet? Whereas they are every day doing the transactions. Manual transaction is huge, but if we can orient them, we can demonstrate this is the wallet and you can do it to anything, any kind of payment very easily without any hassle, without any physical interaction with anyone else, then the thing will be changed. So yes, interoperability is very important, but I would rather request to the regulators as well to promote this kind of digital services to my marginal level of people, because it is not that easy. Whatever the struggle we have seen, the only struggle reaching the people and making them oriented. Yes, we know that payment is ultimate. We are trying to boost the payment. We're trying to boost the merchant payment, QR payment, so many things. But how many people actually know about it? How many people are very much tech savvy? Yes, our youth segment is tech savvy, and they are trying to teach their parents to use this wallet. This is one very good part. During this pandemic, a lot of parents, those who are 50 plus or 60 plus, those they are not very willing to use any technology. Their childs are actually teaching them how to use the wallets. This is one very beautiful thing. Similarly, we have to think nationally as far as the government is concerned, as the government's ultimate goal is the digitizations. And we are also in the same tone, same modality. We need to make some activations, make some programs so that our last mile people can really understand what is called DFS and how it can be used with better way. And then if interoperability comes in, it will be much boost. And you see that once the telco comes in, after 3 for 5 years, interoperability started. First year, no.
Thank you, Sydul. I understand what you're saying. It's literacy. It's the literacy and the education part is a lot required. I would turn to Soumya now on interoperability, and I know that you are working on that. You are working on bank to MFS connection, on companies integrating them, like through my Visa card or my MasterCard, I can add money and send money, pay my bills. A country like ours, where 20% population do not have a bank account. And that is why our e-commerce suffers on the last mile of the payment. It's still cash because 20% are unbanked. MFS could be a big solution to this e-commerce platform on taking the cash away, which is I think all participants dream today, is move cash away. Cash is your competition. So what are your plans of taking this integration forward? Company like you, MasterCard, what are your plans? How do you take this integration forward? I know there's an integration part that we have today of add money. And in future, to integrate between players, between banks, what role do you think Visa, Masters, the Amex of this world will have?
Sure. Thanks, Sattar. Again, like, okay, at a very basic level, I think fundamentally at the core of what we do is drive interoperability through our network. Imagine earlier where we used to have each individual bank issuing their own so-called ATM cards, which would work only at their ATMs. With the Visa card, we literally kind of busted that myth and made it interoperable, not just within the country, but internationally as well. So we firmly believe that open loop is the future. We firmly believe in that. We embrace this whole interoperability concept, and are delighted to know that even in Bangladesh, the regulator has been driving interoperability through various policies, guidelines, circulars, etc. One most recent that I can recall is obviously the Bangla QR standards, which again aims to make the one standard QR in the all of Bangladesh. Likewise, with other projects that are underway, I think it's the same theme which is coming across, which is basically to make payments interoperable within the MFS players as well as between banks, MFS, and other TSPs and so on. That's at the core of at the core of that is where we would want to play, facilitating this money movement. Again, I might sound repetitive, but I think what I'm trying to drive the point is that we really feel and we really believe money should move freely, seamlessly, and as per customers' convenience. We cannot possibly restrict a consumer to say that, okay, to transfer money in the example that I think you quoted some time ago. If you want to transfer money from your MFS wallet to somebody else's MFS wallet, you need to go to the agent, cash out, give the cash to the other person who will then cash in at another agent. And that's exactly where we believe our solutions and capabilities will help in bridging this gap. So one use case that you have mentioned is, of course, the ad money. There are a few others that we are already working with our partners and clients in the market, which should be seeing the light of the day pretty soon. And this enablement of interoperable money movement is what we are committed to. That's definitely, and as we look at the growth of e-commerce in Bangladesh, the growth of small merchant digital commerce enablement, the growth of remittances, everywhere, wherever there is any money changing hands virtually, digitally, I think that's the space where we have a role to play, and we are actively playing that. I can cite examples from the subcontinent with other players, or across the world in other geographies. Wherever we are talking about interoperability, there has been some visa solution that we have been able to address that need. And as the world moves more towards this concept of open banking, where players realize the importance of data and realize the importance of massaging that data to leverage and to kind of customize products and offerings, leveraging that data, that's where the point of arrival would be. Today, all these players, bKash, Nagod, UPAY, and others, would all be generating huge amounts of data, which can give great insights, deep insights into the consumer payment behavior, consumer income levels, and so on and so forth. Now that can be really, churned, mined, and packaged into insights which would help in driving other financial services and products. Which again, all of this will grow multifold if it was all interoperable. So short answer is definitely as Visa. We only believe in that open loop system, interoperable system. And that's how we look at partnering with our clients to drive greater interoperability.
Very good to hear of that. We are nearly coming to the end of our session. And one last question, and I'll open the question to anybody who wants to answer it. I will not direct it to anybody. Despite being one of such a large payment market or MFS market, why are we not seeing the international players like Google Pay, Amazon, WeChat, or WhatsApp not trying to enter Bangladesh market? What can be the possible reason for it? And I don't think the space is overcrowded at all. I think all players are scratching on the top right now. This is a deep penetration to go in, which Sydul mentioned, education, literacy, confidence, and others need to come in. Do you think they're waiting for the market to mature and they will come and acquire one of the players and say it's much easier? Or what is the possible reason? And I'm open this question. I'll throw this question to the floor, whoever wants to respond to it. And that's the last question because we're running out of time.
I can take a crack at it, Sattar, if you allow. See, I mean, while I'm not authorized to speak on those companies' behalf, but I believe it's a question of, the foundational infrastructure there in that country for these tech companies to come in. That's a key requirement which I guess they would evaluate before making a market entry decision. And when I say the foundational infrastructure, it's not only about the technology platform and so on, but also about the favorable policies, framework, government support, and regulatory, favorable regulatory environment. All of this coming together. So if you look at it, I can talk about India. Let's say all these tech players that we are talking about, UPI is the foundational infrastructure that is what got them in. Likewise, I think maybe that could be one of the sort of basic requirements for these technology companies to evaluate. Having said which, I think we are also kind of trying to work with such partners to broaden their geographical presence and support them in their ambitions to go beyond where they are today.
Thank you, Soumya. It was the last question I had in my mind. I wanted to put it in the platform and ask you people. Good going for all of you till they don't come in, until we build our own API. I would actually like to thank all my participants today for taking time out and joining with me in this 1 hour, 15-minute session. And I would also like to thank all the viewers who had the patience to watch and listen to us. It was extremely enriching and learning experience for me today, and I'm sure the viewers would have also enjoyed. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant plenary session of the Convergence 2021 as it ends today. Thank you.